Happy New Year, everybody. Sorry I couldn't get this video out sooner on a 2022 recap video, but we've all had the flu here, so it's been a very quiet New Year's Eve weekend and whatever. We're a little bit on the mend, so I'm going to try and get to that today and show you things that this has been 2022 was a very big year in the garden here for me. I decided to do 3 new beds completely from scratch when I started my YouTube channel last year. So I could show you how you can actually start a garden from nothing, with nothing. I also had the Garden Conservancy here for an open house, Open Garden Days. That was really exciting. I've been working towards that for a long time. I hosted several different groups, including the CT Daylily Society. So let's go back and take a quick look at some of the overviews from this year's garden.
First, let me say a really heartfelt thank you to everyone who has subscribed to my channel, who has watched my videos this year in 2022 before I even start, and I hope you'll continue watching in 2023. So if you've been watching me at all this year, you'll remember that I moved to this house in 2016, and then I started with nothing, and I have a basic design plan that I started with. The garden has really evolved over the last 6 years, and starting with this past winter, let's go through what all the big changes were in the garden in 2022. So starting in January, I decided to try winter sowing this year with milk jugs. We didn't have as much snow, and I'm not sure if that maybe led to it not working as well as I would have liked. I got seeds from a variety of places: Johnny's, Floret, Baker Creek, and Select Seeds. I moved them to the back bed after a while, just so it was easier to kind of have them all in one place, and we just didn't have a lot of snow. Then I ordered all of my annuals from Proven Winners online. So I was going to be ready for my open garden day June 4th, and I knew I was going to be away in May, so I wanted to get as many annuals ordered as I possibly could. Then March 27th was my first YouTube video on how to start a garden from scratch. So we started with, the basic design planning. We did 3 brand new beds, totally from scratch. So bed prep involved removing grass, putting down dirt and compost, tilling the area, obviously laying out the beds, deciding what they were going to look like. This one, bed number 1, was actually an extension of an existing bed that just the shape didn't work. It didn't work for the irrigation. So we had to move some irrigation lines, which is pretty typical. And this bed has really evolved over this past year. I started with very little in here, just 2 shrubs basically, and some daylilies. And then as we move into later in the year, you can see this bed in August, when pretty much all the annuals, the perennials, everything is actually in bloom. So this bed really went under a pretty big transformation. We built a retaining wall behind it because this area sloped down. I had a lot of annuals in here, perennials, but I also added a bunch of shrubs. I added quite a few hydrangeas in here. I added some daisies, some gaura, and a lot of coneflowers. I also moved some things from other areas into this bed. And you can take a look at the end of the season, very end of the season, what this bed actually looked like the winter, basically, when we're putting everything to bed and putting everything to sleep. So this was bed number 1. I'll call it my extension bed for lack of a better term. So bed number 2 was a little bit more complicated. We had to watch out for the leaching field in the backyard. So again, same thing. We got rid of the grass. We dug up This area we put in compost, we added topsoil, we added some raised beds. This actually was a lot of work, this bed. It borders a conservation area, and we were trying to, make this area look a little bit nicer. So again, we start with, I laid the beds out on the grass with just some paint marker. And then, we started digging these things out. And we did the same thing for bed number 3, which started with 2 hawthorn trees that we have. And again, these all evolved a little at a time, digging them up. A lot of work. We did hire some help to help us get rid of the grass because it was a massive project. And then tilling the area, bringing in topsoil and compost. We also had to address some drainage issues that we had because we have a lot of drainage issues in our yard. So that was something that had to be done before we could really start planting any of the, especially this bed, because water tends to run down through here. So then, we lay out all the plants. We added shrubs, a variety of different shrubs, spireas, stervillas, and that's the new bed. So April was a very busy month. A lot of my plants started coming in, shrubs and perennials and annuals that I had ordered in anticipation, again, of my Open Garden Conservancy Day, because I knew I was going to be away in May. I had these things sitting in my hoop house. And I've got to say, everything did really well. Can't complain about that. The next big thing we tackled was moving our wisteria. It was on an arbor that just was not supporting it very well. It was starting to get way too heavy. So we had to move it to a heavier arbor. That was really quite a job. Won't want to be doing that again anytime soon. But it worked out. It was very successful, and it's growing like crazy, so I can't really complain. I guess it worked. Then I did a video on unboxing new plants. These were from Annie's Annuals. They came in amazing condition. So I hope you found that interesting. Some companies ship things in very different conditions. And God bless FedEx. They're not always the best, turning boxes upside down, etc. These were really boxed really well, and they all made it, which was really great. Then after unboxing new annuals and stuff, on April 8th, I did a video on how to pot up a bare root rose. This was Eustacia Vi from David Austin. Then I put in a new peony. This was Cora Louise. And then, of course, all the Allium Globemasters started to open after that. Then on April 15th, tax day, I planted out my ranunculus. I showed you how I had pre-sprouted them and planted those out. So I did not have good luck with the ranunculus. I don't know why, because they were in a spot they should have grown really well. I don't know if I got them out too late. I planted them the right way. So I'm going to try it again this year, and hopefully it'll work. These things cost money, so you gotta you don't want things to fail, obviously, but I will try it again. Then right after that, I started potting up my dahlias and my elephant ears. I usually start these early. I start them in the basement, and then I start bringing them out a little at a time. I usually do start them because if I put them straight in the ground, I have a lot of trouble with the rabbits and the chipmunks eating the very little nubs as they come up. So I do try to pot things up. This year, 2023, I may actually leave my dahlias in pots. Again, I did have a lot of trouble with chipmunks and rabbits eating the dahlias this year, and I had vole damage. So I haven't quite decided what I'm going to do, but I do always pot them up early. I start them in my basement, move them out to the hoop house, and I have a lot of dahlias ordered for this year, and I did do a video showing you most of the dahlias that I ordered for 2023. So the last 10 days of the month saw me going to a wholesale nursery to pick out the big trees for bed number 3, which had all really big trees. And I tried to show you different things in the 3 beds. So this bed, which is bed number 2, sorry, has all full-grown, full-size trees and shrubs. Bed number 3 had just small containerized ones, and bed number 1 had really just annuals basically added to it. And really, then later on I added some shrubs. So this is what it looked like when everything was basically planted in the ground, and that was the end of April. So the very beginning of May, I started to add perennials to all those new beds. The magnolia started blooming. By the 19th, all the beds were mulched. We started to have tulips and fritillaria were up. I did some direct sowing of zinnias, bells of Ireland, basil aromata, cosmos. And then more annuals arrived from Proven Winners. Unfortunately, a lot of plants arrived while I was away at my son's wedding, and God bless my neighbors. They took really good care of all my plants. We had a lot of stuff show up. I also, as soon as I came back, I started planting up tomatoes and zucchini and broccoli, lettuce, carrots, radishes. I did a lot in grow bags, and I'm going to do more in grow bags this year because I think that worked out really well. And by the end of May, I had all the annuals and perennials in the ground in advance of my open garden day for the Garden Conservancy. I did do quite a few annuals because I really wanted that punch of color early. Like I said, I had a lot of events going in June where I hosted a bunch of groups. So I really wanted that nice impact. June was an extraordinarily busy month for me. I was very excited to host an Open Days program for the Garden Conservancy, something I had been working for a very long time. We had a lot of people come visit the garden, and I highly encourage you to do that. Visiting open gardens is a great way to get ideas for different things that will grow and survive in your particular yard. It gives you ideas of different types of arrangements, plants, what works, what doesn't work, maybe some new combinations that you hadn't thought of. And I really highly suggest that you consider going to an Open Days garden. They're not very expensive, and it's a great organization that supports gardens around the country. So by far this year, my number 1 most popular video was on purple leafed plants. It had almost 10,000 views. So that was pretty exciting. I also hosted 2 other private groups in the garden. They had lunches and did a garden tour. I also had to cage up all the dahlias because I was having so much damage from chipmunks and rabbits. It's a little crazy. And then at the end of the month, I added some more shrubs like an elderberry, some grasses, a swamp azalea. The Spirea ogon was just looking amazing. So it was a very busy June, to be sure. So July is always a tough month. It's usually very hot. I actually found a clematis I had no idea I had. I still don't know what it was. I had some bad luck with my lemony lace elderberry. Didn't survive really, I don't think. I had all the containers were planted, and then I hosted the Connecticut Daylily Society, which was a lot of fun. All the daylilies were blooming. The garden looked really nice. I've hosted them in the past. So that was a fun day. They had a whole luncheon and a talk. I also planted a bunch of oriental lilies, which was nice. The clematis was blooming. It was a fun day. So my next big project at the end of July was that I wanted to redo the spruce bed. So I pulled out all the orange daylilies, the Kwanzaa, the primal screams. I put in Russian sage, roses, drops of Jupiter, coneflowers, daisies. I also did a second planting of sunflowers because the first batch was eaten. I did a video on sun-loving perennials. So I just wanted to kind of show you that it doesn't matter what time of year it is, you can always make changes as long as you're really conscientious about watering. If you're just going to plant things and walk away and leave them, Obviously, things are not going to survive, but if you are careful, you really can get a lot done all year long. Do I suggest it in the middle of the summer? Not really. But I gave away all those daylilies, and I think everybody was really pleased with them and stuff. And here's what the garden looked like at the very end of the summer. So come August, I had a very large art installation that I did. All my photography went into the new building for Middlesex orthopedic surgeons. That was wonderful. I've been working on that for the last couple of years. The theme was spring, summer, fall, winter around New England, and I was very honored to receive this project. Next up, I limbed up the salixes, and I'm going to coppice those early this spring. So I did show you how I started to do that. I did it on a couple of them. I added some bearded irises. And then I also did a video on flower arranging. So hopefully you found that interesting. Here you're looking at, a flower arrangement I did with, dahlias and yarrow and phlox. And nine barks. So when you're making a flower arrangement, don't forget about just your shrubs. It doesn't have to just be flowers. They make great fillers. I also tried to talk about hydrangeas, and we did some videos showing all the containers and how those evolved from the spring to the summer to the fall, because those, as things come in and out, you might want to change up your containers. Then the very beginning of September, I went to Italy for 2 weeks. There were alliums blooming. My neighbors took care of things for me. I've got to say, don't ever not go on vacation just because you have a garden. I know it feels like a lot of pressure. Oh my God, what's going to die while I'm gone? Who's going to water this? Who's going to water that? At the end of the day, you really can't run your life based around your garden unless it's your business. But, for the rest of us, it's got to be something that you love, and you have to love it all the time, and you can't run your life by it or you won't have a life. So at the end of September, I started decorating for the holidays, Thanksgiving and Halloween to be specific. Then, come October, you have to start putting things to sleep. We start cutting things back. You're thinking about what are you going to be, do you have plants for fall color? If not, let's plan for next year. I started with saving caladiums and cannas and colocaceas. We started talking about, how to plan for these things for next year. Started getting the containers, put away or whatever, like I said, and saving things that we wanted to try to overwinter. I had really good luck this year with some caladiums, and I wanted to get those all saved. The elephant ears did really well, so I wanted to try to save those. And then, of course, digging up the dahlias later on. And so far, things are doing pretty well. It's been a relatively weird winter so far. First, it was really cold, and then it was warm. We talked about winter interest, planting things for winter interest. Again, if it's something that, you don't really have a lot of in your garden, it's something to think about what you might want to add for next year, whether it's the beauty berries, the viburnums, just things that provide really nice color. My Japanese maple, Cotonoito, was just gorgeous. Then we planted cool flowers, feverfew, nigella, sweet peas. We talked about coppicing shrubs. And this spring, I'll show you how to coppice some shrubs. Then the year starts winding down. It's November. We started planting tulips, both in the ground and in containers, did some lasagna plantings. So I showed you a variety of different things. I put down a lot of like vole and mole repellent, hopefully, so the ones in the ground don't get eaten by the chipmunks or the voles or the moles, who knows. Then we started potting up amaryllis. And I did a bunch of those, and I've done them in succession, actually. So I've done a bunch of different amaryllis. And here's a little selection of some of the amaryllis that I planted. This is Exotic Nymph. I also have Magical Touch blooming right now, and then I have another one called Nymph blooming. I have a lot of others that haven't opened yet. So next up, we planted garlic. So that was new to me, so excited to see how that comes up. Then, of course, we started talking about decorating for Thanksgiving. So something very exciting for me, the Massachusetts Board of Tourism wanted to use a picture that I took from Nantucket from the Nantucket Christmas stroll. I took this a couple years ago. They wanted to use it in their tourism campaign, so I was very honored to have them use this picture. So that was very exciting. I think most of you know at this point that I do photography as well as garden design. And of course, that brings us to December and the end of 2022. I did a whole video requested by a viewer on indoor plants and how to decorate and style your home with indoor plants. And I added a whole bunch of new ones myself, so we'll see how those go. So far, I've only got one that's struggling. This is the garden at the very end of the year. Then, of course, we started in with the Christmas decorations and Hanukkah decorations, decorating the front porch, decorating the inside of the house, you know, the mantle, the tree, and, you know, the staircase and all those things. So I hope you got some good inspiration from some of those videos. So in a big overview, this year I had a total of 2,105,850 people viewed my videos. They watched for 49,909, 451 hours. I have 778 subscribers at the end of the year. My top 5 videos were my favorite purple-leafed plants, why your garden needs winter interest, sun-loving summer perennials, attracting pollinators, and amazing daylilies. So I hope you'll stay tuned for 2023 Garden Adventures. And again, I thank you so much for watching, for subscribing, supporting. Please, I love your comments. I always respond. If you have things you want me to talk about, let me know. The beginning of the year, like I said, I will be coppicing some red twig dogwoods, some salix, beautyberry. I'm going to talk about my favorite garden resource books. And we'll see, you know, how things survive the winter. Right now, the yard just looks like a mess, if you ask me. So again, I hope you had great holidays. Sorry for the delay. As I mentioned earlier, we all had the flu here. Things were just, everybody's kind of recovering. So a day late and a dollar short, but still got it out. So belated Happy New Year to all of you.